and thanks for coming out on this Saturday. There's a lot of things going on, but I would like to introduce Joanna to you. Born in Gdynia, Poland, Malinowska, sorry, I'm stumbling. Malinowska came to the U.S. in 1994. Attending Rutgers University, she majored in art, but was also interested in cultural anthropology, which has proved to be important in her subsequent work. After graduating from Rutgers in 1998, she went on to receive her MFA from Yale in 2001. Over the past dozen years, throughout a diverse practice that crosses mediums from video to monumental sculpture and installation, she has maintained a consistent interest in cultures that are not her own, from indigenous South American cultures to the Arctic Inuit people. Malinowska has participated in Smack Melon Art Studio Program in New York, was the recipient of the John Simmons Guggenheim Memorial Fellowship, and in 2012 was chosen to show at the Whitney Biennial. Her highly prolific career has brought her to galleries and museums all over the world and has brought her to us today. Please give a warm welcome to Joanna.
Thank you so much. This sounds more heroic than it feels to me, this whole introduction. I will talk about my works in more or less chronological order, but going backwards. And I would like to start with my most recent solo exhibition in New York, titled "A Hawk from a Handsaw." And one of its components was a video where a friend of a friend, Russian conductor, opera conductor and musician, agreed to read Allen Ginsberg's America in front of my video camera. And now I will play this piece. I'm trying to make it full screen, okay. One more time.
America. America, I have given you all, and now I am nothing. America, $2.27, January 17, 1956. America, I can't stand my own mind. America, when will we end the human war? Go fuck yourself with your atom bomb. I don't feel good. Don't bother me. I won't write my poem till I am in my right mind. America, when will you be angelic? When will you take off your clothes? When will you look at yourself through the grave? When will you be worthy of your million Christs? America, why are your libraries full of tears? America, when will you send your eggs to India? I am sick of your insane demands. When will you reinvent the heart? When will you manufacture land? When will your cowboys read Spangler? When will you...
I guess I'll stop here. So this is probably one of my largely misunderstood projects. At least that's the impression I got when I read reviews from the exhibition and talked to some people who saw it. I was very much interested with this piece in several different issues. I mean, of course, in the aspect of political work that sort of ages this poem written in the 1950s seems like it's set in a completely different geopolitical situation, and I was wondering how it's going to sound right now. Although with the situation in Ukraine, I guess it's probably we're coming back to the same history. But there was also the idea of how a poem is sort of similar to probably a piece of music. It depends on the interpretation of who reads it. Like, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Allen Ginsberg reading it, but it's such a different feeling to it. It sounds more ecstatic and religious and funny, and here is more, I guess, deadpan, although I guess in the responses that I got from the audience, people were sort of thinking that I'm trying to mock the poem, which was not really at all the situation. I think my work is a lot of one of the aspects of my work is probably creating cultural clashes, and I was very much interested in having someone coming from a completely different part of the world, having a very different political views probably than Allen Ginsberg, reading his poem and seeing how it's going to work out. Anyway, so this project was just like a small piece in the corner of the gallery and connected to other little pieces and cultural clashes. So let me just get out of it. So this is sort of like one of the overviews of the exhibition, and this project perhaps it's revolved around its centerpiece, the 6 tons of dirt brought from the Yukon territory over the summer. My husband and I, we drove there and in search of gold, I guess, and we brought it back in stages. It was kind of complicated to get it through the border, but I was interested in having this pile of dirt in the gallery, and my initial intention was to actually do a performance inside the gallery during the course of it, sort of sifting the soil for gold, but later on I abandoned this. I was just doing it as a sort of intimate performance that was happening after hours, and if somebody wanted to see it, they could see me through the doorway to the gallery, which is large glass, so it was possible to see it, but it was not very kind of so it was sort of like a natural diorama at nights. So there was a big pile of dirt, and perhaps this is the sort of a cartoonish version of an old type of TV set that on which this reading of Ginsberg was happening in the corner of the gallery. I wanted this to be sort of like a discreet, not so into your face. So in a way, this piece functioned more as a soundtrack that later on was discovered when somebody was walking through the gallery. And this chair is one of the elements of several. Like in the other corner, this roundish shape, it's also another element, and the white wall here, and I mean on the side, and those little black table and sort of like a tiny staircase. All of these are sort of reinterpretations of Isamu Noguchi's set for Appalachian Spring, the collaborative piece by Noguchi, Martha Graham, and American composer Aaron Copland. So it was like this sort of, it's an example of iconic, I guess, American, I guess, a piece of contemporary art that sort of deals with the history, the frontier, and I wanted this to be present in this kind of cartoonishly remade set design that doesn't really serve any other purpose than just being there. It's not there was no performance in it, and the large figure in the center is the sort of transformed Smokey the Bear that was inspired by the trip to Yukon, and I've seen like several similar roadside attraction sculptures that were kind of amazing. So I wanted to have him there too as a part of all those kind of little elements of American history and the struggle of conquering this land, which I feel like is also what I do here. So this is another shot of it. This is a close-up of a stone from the Appalachian Spring, and this is the wall again, the front part. And here's another piece that is not related to Noguchi or anything. This is actually inspired by Hare Krishna iconography. This is the cycle of life. I kind of thought that this would make sense with sort of to connect this cycle of life and the cycle of American history. A friend of mine who is an art historian came to the show, and she was asking me, what is this piece about? She kind of was very puzzled by this, and I thought it was pretty funny because I think this is probably the most straightforward work that I ever did in my life, so I was surprised that somebody have any doubts. This is just a feather tapestry that sort of like loosely allude to Native American art, but this is not based on any particular source. It is my own sort of improvisation with feathers. And this is a continuation of the same exhibition, but this piece was in a different room, separate from all those other elements that I showed previously. This is a sculptural portrait of Merit Oppenheim, one of my personal heroes. I love her work very much. And this portrait is it's made in ceramics, and it's based on photographic portraits of Merit done by Man Ray. Can you hear me okay, or is it like too much of my breathing and stuff? So I guess the inspiration for this piece was an interest in mud cakes, something that is actually very sad and tragic, the kind of food that is consumed in parts of the world where people have nothing to eat, so they make food out of mud. And I mean, this is probably a slippery moment because there is something very tragic and charged about it, but at the same time, I sort of found those mud cakes very beautiful as objects, sort of beautiful sculptures, and I wanted to somehow explore them and try to recreate them at home. So they are made from dirt from McCarran Park in Brooklyn, which was sort of, I like always to play with the geography and bringing sort of dirt or other stuff from different places. And so these are made according to Haitian recipes. And given Merit's history with crazy gloves that she made with veins, or sort of platters with high heel shoes that she turned into some kind of weird sculptural food pieces, I guess, I sort of thought that she would appreciate having a hat like this. So this was the piece that was in the other room as a part of the show, and I guess it related to the dirt from the Yukon. And here are two other mud cakes that I thought that were sort of still very attractive as objects, and I just wanted to have them on the wall. And this is not my work. This is a work by one of the 19th century German sculptors whose name I always forget when I have to speak publicly, or I don't know how to pronounce it even, so I'm not going to try. But I remember its title. It's One Step Forward. And this piece looks very gigantic here, but in reality it's quite small. It's probably, I don't know, like this tall. And it's in permanent collection of the Rodin Museum in Philadelphia. And I found it totally by accident while working on another roadside attraction type of bear, the one that you saw just a few seconds ago. By the way, this huge bear was made out of paper mache and wood. So after this exhibition, my gallery asked me to produce another bear that they wanted to take somewhere, and I was a little terrified because I didn't want it to become a bear person, and sort of I felt like this other bear had its context, and with the, I guess, Yukon trip and whatever, roadside attraction, American art, but I don't know, I didn't want it to become a bear sculptor, but finally they talked me into it. So I took this one step forward, this weird sculpture that you saw a second ago, as my inspiration, and sort of like made this bear that is, I guess, I mean, I don't have a full picture of it. This is just still the bear in process, but it's pretty close to the final product, and it was sort of like a bear in a shroud. And unfortunately, you cannot see the foot, but it was making also one step forward, like the other beast. And I thought that black and white photograph was more interesting than the color one. So this is my bear story. Actually, I'm asked to make another one, and I'm terrified. I don't know how to get out of this. Except that this is so much fun for me to work with paper mache. I think I underappreciated this material. Okay, and now we are in the Museum of Metropolitan Museum, the African section. I'm sure that many of you are familiar with it, and it's because of the Boli, the piece, this one, the sort of vaguely animal shape that looks quite different from everything else, that is more decorative and I guess ornamental. Here's a close-up. So I became familiar with this piece when I was doing my undergrad at Rutgers. My very usually grumpy and sarcastic sculpture professor took us to see this African collection, and he spoke about this animal shape with such an uncharacteristic tenderness, and speaking of it like it was an essence of the sculpture and one of the most amazing pieces. And at that time I couldn't understand the magic behind it. I thought it was like some muddy thing that didn't appeal to me. But later on I guess I discovered it, it was an acquired taste, I guess. And so this is Boli, which is a ritual object from Mali in Africa, produced by Bamana people. I guess it used to be produced. I'm not sure if they're still made these days, but the privilege of making these objects were reserved to priests and blacksmiths in that society. And the traditional Boli are made of a variety of organic material and serve the purpose of maintaining balance in the universe. And I guess these are sort of like process pieces that are built, and they sort of like chip, and some parts are falling down, and then some more are added. But they're made of variety of materials, such as, besides the obvious like clay and mud, there is, I guess, bamboo armature inside, and there is also blood and urine and feces and alcohol and a lot of crazy materials that, I guess, contribute to its powers. So I decided at some point to build my own Boli, and here it is. My version was much larger than the one at the Met. And it was, besides the wood and plaster and wood armature and clay, I think it also had a lot of other materials. Like one of them was water that was sent to me from people who live by the Bering Strait in Alaska, and that I always consider like an important sort of like a geographical place. And it also contained a sweater of Bolivian President Evo Morales, one of the first indigenous presidents in South America, and I guess a very controversial figure to some of the other political leaders. And it also had shredded pieces of Spinoza's Ethics. And, so this was like a pretty potent mixture, in my opinion. And this whole show was basically inspired by the idea of the Large Hadron Collider, the particle collider in Geneva. I remember reading Gail Collins' column in the New York Times and her making fun of people who are so afraid of this large hadron collider that if it starts finally working, it will probably end the world. And I kind of like the idea of this fear of those collisions, and sort of was interested in creating an exhibition that will be sort of like a cultural equivalent of this collider, and where different things would bump against each other kind of metaphorically. So my big giant Boli was activated by a mammoth tusk, a fake mammoth tusk made out of plaster that was sort of, I guess it was piercing its body. And it faces a replica of Malevich's Black Square that I always thought it was such a potent and deeply spiritual piece. And I thought it was an interesting confrontation. And besides that, I had also a replica of ghost dance dress based on one of the 19th century ghost dance wardrobes from the Oglala people, and they were. I'm not sure to what extent you're familiar with ghost dance, but I think what was important about those shirts and dresses is that they were believed to be bulletproof, which I guess ended very tragically for some people who were wearing it. And this is another piece that was on the other side of the Boli. The black cube is a reconstruction of an instrument that was invented by Russian avant-garde composer Galina Ustvolskaya. I had the chance to hear one of her pieces performed in Salzburg in a concert hall, and at first glance it was like a very traditional sort of classical music concert. I mean, the music was very contemporary, but it was performed by the kind of like a traditional symphonic orchestra. But in the middle of it, there was this guy with this black cube, and that was used as a occasional kind of percussive instrument. So this black cube was hit in the middle and creating this kind of dull sound that was a little bit out of touch with everything else that was played. And I found it fascinating. Actually, I've sort of become interested in Ustvolskaya's work even more because she's an example of a composer who created a very sort of avant-garde music, but it was also very spiritual. So it was sort of like this, I think, contemporary way of dealing with spirituality. But also what I found very interesting in her musical notation is that she would sort of describe how the performer, for example, a soprano, should be dressed, like no jewelry, black dress or something like this. So I like that she was sort of combining a visual element with music. But in any case, I thought that this black cube was kind of very mysterious, the same way like the Black Square by Malevich or this black thing in the Kubrick's 2001. So, you know. And of course, in this exhibition, it also served a purpose of being a percussive instrument, and it was periodically very gently hit by this cane that was under the blanket. There is this very small mechanism that sort of made it move and hit the cube, producing very gentle sound. Actually, we were also during the show we were changing sometimes the motors, and some of them, in some cases, Joseph Beuys was a very frail Joseph Beuys, and some other cases he was the very sort of vigorous. Anyway, so this is another shot of it, and There was also another mammoth replica of a mammoth tusk. I mean, I'm not sure what is their metaphysical significance comparing to the other objects that were more kind of culturally charged, but I thought that mammoth tusks are such beautiful objects in themselves. And also, I guess, the implication of the ivory trade and all the kind of cultural complexities rising from it was also of interest to me. And so, as I said, the original bolis were produced by a priest and blacksmiths in Bamana society in Africa. And in my case, I decided to collaborate with Polish construction workers in my neighborhood in Williamsburg. And actually, the guy with the beard is some accidental passersby who actually happened to end up in my photograph at the time when I was documenting it. But the other guy, the one with the glasses, was the one who really worked very hard on it. And it was such an interesting process in itself. I mean, building this piece, my studio was big enough, but it wouldn't be possible to get it out from there. So that's why I decided to build it outside. And I'm very much interested in collaboration, and I like to sort of involve people who have not much to do with the arts in sort of working on art projects. So that's why I did it. And the funny part about this is that the guy from whom I was renting this parking lot did a small research on bolis, and he discovered that the original figurines are sold for like $50,000 at Sotheby's. So later on, he was very cruel to me, charging me for the parking lot because he thought that if my boli is so huge, it probably will sell for who knows how much. So, so this is another kind of funny story connected to it. But besides collaborating with the construction workers from Poland, the stereotypical, I guess, Polish immigrant, I also work with another kind of group that also sort of forms some perhaps not very favorable stereotype: the homeless alcoholics who live in the Brooklyn McCarran Park or hang out in there a lot, and. This project was in a way another form of appropriation because I took its inspiration from the movie by Bela Tarr, where in his film there were three people in the bar who were demonstrating how the moon eclipse works, and they were just making those movements, how to whatever the sun covers the moon or whatever, or earth, and sort of demonstrating how it works. And I decided to invite the people that I knew from the park, from walking my dog in the park, to sort of perform a solar system and then make it collapse. So these are just like very quick stills from the video. The guy in the blue shirt, the one who with his arms up, he was the sun, and he was probably a very interesting character. Actually, he was a poet and an artist. So what was interesting about this collaboration is that I gave the idea to those people, but it became it was carried away, carried in this sort of like an unusual direction by them. And at the end of the after the universe collapsed, the poet, the sun, he sang and read his like a piece of poetry and music that he created. While I guess hanging out in there and playing the sun, so it was kind of interesting, and there was also my friend Masami playing on a toy piano, providing some soundtrack, and we also used the music by a French composer, Olivier Messiaen, of whom I will speak later in connection to another piece. But I'm not going to play this video because it's really long, and I just think that we have probably other things that we have to go through. But they were also, I mean, this piece was also the component of this whole other show, and which title was Times of Guerrilla Metaphysics. And here's another boli that I produced against my initial instincts. I thought that probably one can make one boli in their life, but I ended up getting convinced to make another one, the same story like with the bear. But this one was made in Paris, and it was made in relation to this staircase, and the unusual probably material inside it is the water that was collected from the fountain created by Marion Oppenheim in Bern. So this is like a little piece of history in it. And also, when I was building it, there are so many stupid anecdotes, but I was very unhappy with this whole situation. Everything was going wrong, and I was on the verge of sort of withdrawing from the exhibition and talking to the person in charge of it at some cafe in Paris where it was happening. And suddenly I realized that next to me is sitting this wonderful German baritone, like one of the artists that I deeply admire, one of my favorite musicians out of all. And suddenly this whole, my whole, I guess, attitude towards this exhibition changed. And I guess we talked him into giving an autograph that was later on embedded in the piece. And besides that, it has a sort of a fake dynamite attached to its head, so it can technically blow up any time, and it stands on some accidental combination of books. And there's also a feng shui mirror that was supposed to, I guess, cause the explosion at some point. And this is a shot from a group show at Sculpture Center in New York. It was called The Night's Move, and it was a very kind of large group show of different kind of sculptures, and this is my contribution. So in the background there is a washing machine. This is a close-up of it. So here again is this idea of colliders and colliding different elements. And this time it's not very elaborate, it's just just a machine. And it was set on the perpetual kind of spin mode, and inside of it I had different kind of stuff that is listed. I don't know if it's readable. A lot of those things are, of course, references to I guess other people's artwork, like the hair from Joseph Beuys' work, or a handful of nothing collected in darkness is a reference to this work by Polish performance artist Zbigniew Werpechowski, where he was just collecting darkness in between his palms. So, and then Bronisław Malinowski, the anthropologist with whom I share last name, is a very provocatively sounding title, Sex and Repression in Savage Society. And other things were inside, and they were spinning during the course of the exhibition. And there was also a video, and here again I work with the Polish drunks in the park. I once heard a story of a guy who was an alcoholic, and he was drinking with his dog because nobody else wanted to drink with him anymore because he was drinking so much. And then one night he had a dream in which Virgin Mary appeared, and she asked him to stop drinking. And this one dream cured this guy completely from his addiction. And his dog was very mad, and bit him because of the fact that he was not getting his daily portion anymore. But I thought this story was kind of both very profound and funny, and I wanted to somehow organize it in reality. And also, I was at the time watching a lot of those 1960s or 50s films by Italian filmmakers that were referring to biblical stories, and I thought it was kind of an interesting idea to explore. I guess coming from Poland and having this, I guess, heavy Roman Catholic background always somehow gets into my work. So I hire a friend to walk around dressed as a Virgin Mary and with a heart of an ox and a lily, and she was just walking around in the park and visiting my Polish friends. And actually, they were pretty amused, and they didn't think it was funny at all. But what I learned from this piece is that, of course, nothing is surprising in New York, even a Virgin Mary walking around in the park on Saturday afternoon. And I guess here I also, this piece was accompanied by, I mean, this was a combination of pieces. I guess I work in those kind of things that could be read as one piece or as a combination of separate things. So I had this pile of walrus tusks. I mean, replicas of walrus tusks made in plaster. And this was sort of like a result of a conversation that I had with the curator of this exhibition, who came from Pacific Northwest, and we were discussing those amazing potlatch ceremonies practiced there by Native Americans until they were forbidden, I guess, by the government. But the exchange of goods or destruction of goods, and so this was sort of like a beginning of performance that never happened actually, but. And then outside in the courtyard of the sculpture center, they also have those mammoth tusks. I mean, there seems to be important part of my life. And this is a portion of my project at the Whitney Biennial. So here again is the same TV that I used at Canada Gallery for projecting the Ginsberg America. And there's also a painting by Leonard Pelletier, and I probably should talk a little bit about him. Here's his photo. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with him, but he's a Native American activist who, I guess 38 years ago, was put into prison for, I mean, he was accused of killing 2 FBI agents and convicted, but I mean his story is highly controversial and highly disputed, and there are still hopes that maybe somebody will finally pardon him. He was a member of American Indian movement in the 70s, and my collaboration with him sort of happened by almost, it was sort of like an accidental development through different kind of parts of preparation for the exhibition. When I was told that I'm invited for the Whitney Biennial, the curators asked that the first thing I work on is catalog. They wanted to publish an unusual catalog. They didn't want it to have a standard catalog with just an image and CV or just simple text. They wanted to do. They wanted every artist to make some kind of different contribution, and I didn't know what to do at all. And at the time when the deadline was approaching, I was completely confused. But at the time, I was traveling to Canada, driving from New York to Ontario, and I remember crossing several territories that were marked as sort of Native American independent areas, or sort of places where the, I guess, administrative laws were also different and they were governed differently. And this was an interesting experience for me to become aware of how this country is punctuated by those small entities that, I guess, reflect its complicated history. And I thought it would be an interesting gesture to do the same to the Whitney catalog, and just basically I decided to declare my page as sort of like a independent territory, and I wanted them to donate them to someone who might use them for some special purposes. And then Leonard Pelletier came naturally to mind. I was familiar with his story and wanted somehow to give him a chance to maybe to give him some more exposure. At the time when I tried to make a contact with him, he was put for some nonsensical thing like somebody sent them British pounds in an envelope, which is illegal to prison, and he was put in the solitary confinement, and there was no way to be in touch with him directly, but I managed to get in touch with people who has been tirelessly representing him for years and trying to get him out of prison. And my request, I guess, was slightly misunderstood because my focus was the catalog. I didn't even at that time had a chance to think about the exhibition. But I guess they because Leonard, for many years, as he has been in prison, he's been painting a lot. I was familiar with his writing, and I was actually hoping for some written contribution, but I didn't realize that he was actually a very active painter. So they basically proposed to me that I present. I not proposed. They understood that I'm actually inviting him to present his work in the Whitney Biennial, and I really liked that idea. I was a little afraid that this might be a little bit pretentious of me to show Leonard Pelletier at the Whitney Museum as my contribution. But at the same time, I thought it's such a great idea, especially that this is a Whitney Museum of American Art and probably doesn't show that many Native American artists. I mean, right now in the Biennial they have Jimmy Durham, but I don't think so that there were many Native American artists presented there. So I thought it was a wonderful thing to bring Leonard Pelletier. So this is his painting that ended up being presented, and I built a special sort of artificial wall. Wall that was not that didn't exist at that time of the show in the museum. It was sort of added as a sort of like a special place to present his work. So again, this whole Whitney contribution was a combination of three different elements sort of put together and relating or non-relating. It depends on individual interpretations. So another part of it was Duchamp's bottle rock made out of, again, fake walrus and mammoth tusks. It was about 8 feet tall. And the video that was on this cartoonish TV set, and the video was related to a sort of it was a little bit like a Food Channel project, trying to follow a recipe in front of the screen and produce chicha de yuca, the Amazonian moonshine made of the yucca root, and that is made, I guess, that ferments through the chewing and spitting process that traditionally is done by women in different parts of Amazon and I think other parts of South America, and then I was testing its effect of this drink that I managed to produce, and I would like to maybe play some parts of this video here. This video is kind of long, so I will go through maybe like. Okay, so here's the recipe. If you want to try it on your own. I think I have to stop because it's going on for much longer. But we played some more Amazonian music and drank the chicha, the yucca together, and then he went and covered the camera with the felt. But yeah, so. This was the video project, which I think had a lot of, I guess, art historical references, as you see. But I think besides the obvious Hugo Ball and boys, I was kind of interested in Martha Rosler and her iconic semiotic of the kitchen, and Bruce Nauman with all the kind of video pieces that he did when something was sort of like done very directly in front of camera without. I mean, I personally really like those very straightforward demonstration pieces, video pieces. Anyway, so this is the video from the Whitney that accompanied a Pelletier painting and the bottle rock by the Champ. No, I'm sorry, I'm lost here. Just a second. No, this. Okay. Sorry. And this is the project from the exhibition titled "To Believe," and it had a lot of different pieces that somehow involve. I guess New Age stuff and different aspects of belief. And in my case, I visited graves of three anthropologists, three important ones. Margaret Mead, who is buried somewhere in Pennsylvania, and Franz Boas, buried in the Hudson Valley, and Bronisław Malinowski, the Polish anthropologist whom I mentioned earlier, who is like one of my personal heroes, and he, towards the end of his life, taught at Yale, so he's buried in New Haven. And so I collected soil and plants from the grave sites and replanted in the gallery, and had it under surveillance for the period of the exhibition. I mean, the purpose of it was to see if I wanted to kind of reverse the gaze, I guess, and this time, not the anthropologists were scrutinizing other cultures, but they're sort of, the elements that are left of them were sort of under a scrutiny, and I was hoping for some kind of reactions from the other world, but there was none, I guess. The plants from Franz Boas and Malinowski's grave died pretty quickly. Only Margaret Mead flourished over the course of the exhibition. So I guess it's a feminist piece in a way. And here's another tribute to Franz Boas, this wonderful guy who explored the Inuit cultures in the Pacific Northwest. And I was inspired by the small image below one of the photographs that he shot for the exhibition at the Smithsonian, and sort of remade myself to look like him as much as it was possible. And this is a video still that was part of the show where the Franz Boas self-portrait was presented, and this was a hypnosis session where I asked the hypnotherapist to transport me to the Bering Strait area, like several thousand years ago, when the migration of people from Asia to Americas began, and the future Native Americans when they were migrating to America, and I wanted to experience this period of time and being there, and it was an interesting experience. I like how the hypnotherapist was very open to this proposition. She didn't have any problems, and she was inventing different kind of scenarios for me as we went. And I mean, I was disappointed because I didn't really fall into a sort of like a didn't fall into the very deep kind of hypnotic state, but it was sort of like a pleasant disconnection from reality, I guess. And this video lasts for an hour, and there's a lot of her just speaking to me to imagine different things. But there's also later on she asked me a lot of questions and I respond, according to my state. But I mean, nothing supernatural happened. It was in the end pretty mundane. And these are stills from the video about Arctic Elvis. Arctic Elvis, or Jimmy Echo, was a Inuit Elvis impersonator that I met by pure accident when I traveled to the far north, the Nunavut territory in eastern Canada. And I mean, he was such an interesting character. Of course, I was completely seduced, and I came back later again to sort of work on this, I guess, very amateurish documentary. I think it was sort of like our collaborative effort, and it was sort of like when I talk about this project, I always say that it was like a perfect setup because I was imagining them an anthropologist, and he was sort of happy to have an audience and be an Elvis. So I guess it was very perfect, situation. But I would like to play maybe some parts of this video. But this is, by the way, I mean, I forgot to mention that he translated all Elvis songs into Inuktitut, the local language. So this is him singing Elvis in Inuktitut.
Earlier, I said we live in between two worlds. Here's another good example. This is my Arctic Elvis caribou ankler sunglasses, and the real Elvis sunglasses that was given to me by my director. And this is how. In fact, I don't like wearing these ones because in a stage, and when it's dark, I can't see.
Well, they look great.
See, I could see in the light, but on stage when it's low light, it's very hard to see. People like them, I don't. The only contest I ever had is the Tunic Time Talent Show. That's when I did Elvis in $100 at that time. That was the price, $100. And then when I went to high school, that's when I started learning how to play guitar. It was a basic learning, not something special. I don't know how to do lead guitar or anything. It's just rhythm guitar that I learned. There was a lady from New York that she's a book critic. She said, I'm Willie Nelson of the North, but smoother sound. And there was another lady that said, I'm more close to Bob Dylan than any other sound. And that's good to know, because I like Bob Dylan. I like his folk music. I never had CDs, but I think I'm gonna get his new box set of CDs and listen to. I usually listen to his music on the radio station here. He's older material, but he sounds good. Acoustically, he sounds good, but electronically, now I know why they were disappointed. In the beginning, we didn't have any last name. People only use first name basis in the beginning. Because we didn't have any last name, the federal government here, the federal government in Ottawa gave us an E number with a dog tag. Mine was E71781. That's what I was. Jimmy E71781. My number was my last name. It was used for government services. And then later on, they gave us that last name from our father's name. From Jimmy E71781, I went to Jamie Tiglick. My father's name was Tiglick. Third time around, they gave us another last name, third last name, from our grandfather's first name, which is Ikok. People could spell Ikok, so they call it Echo, Chimeako. People from government couldn't spell Ikok, so because it rhymes, I guess, they gave us a Echo. Ikok means human tail. That's what it means. Human tail. Ikko. 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 Yeah. Yeah, that's how you say it. It's human tail. Human tail? Our little tail? That's what it means. The fourth name is my stage name, which is I'm used to hearing in some other settlements, Arctic Elvis. When I did Elvis thing back in '83, ever since people recognized me as Elvis. I don't like Glenn Gould because he's Canadian. I'm a Canadian. I don't feel like Canadian.
Do you feel Canadian?
No, not really because of the government. Both sides of government. government and federal government. Don't like them. Too many rules. There was a person who wanted to hunt traditional style, knowing the traditional knowledge of Inuit hunting without using a rifle, just using a harpoon. He wasn't granted to do that hunting from our government because our government was afraid of him to get killed by the polar bear.
Have you ever hunted yourself with your family, or?
Yes, I hunted. So far I caught caribou, seal, what else? Duck, seagull, all that stuff. And they didn't go to the waste. We ate them. We hunt to eat them, either raw or cooked. But that part of the harpoon, guess what that is? This part, the one I'm pointing now. Take a wild guess what it is.
Is it a walrus tusk? No.
No, penis, walrus penis.
Oh no.
That's what it is. That's what it is, that one.
So how is the walrus again?
Ivik. In Inuit, it's called Ivik. And the seal is Nati. Caribou is Tuktu. Dog is Khimmi.
I think I will stop here because it can go on forever. So this is the Arctic Elvis project. It was titled actually Umanaktak, which means island of in the shape of heart in the local language, and it was presented in the gallery as a projection. And I had this white carpet to simulate the snow, and a fake fireplace or whatever, bonfire for people to sort of hang out around and watch. Oh, okay. Yeah, so this is like different parts of pieces. Do we still have time, or it's 4:15? Should I show? Okay, so I will just show one more project. This one is related to the French composer Olivier Messiaen. I don't know if you're familiar with him. I would like to speak a little bit about him. I mean, what I find interesting about him is the fact, it's again like with this Russian composer Galina Ustvolskaya. It's and his music is an example of sort of very kind of contemporary avant-garde music that is somewhat related to religion. He was a very serious Roman Catholic. He was an organist in one of the Parisian churches, and his music was written to different, I guess, figures in the Roman Catholic iconography. And one of the pieces that really fascinated me was this a series of 20 piano preludes written to Baby Jesus. So each of those short pieces, sort of like it was a meditation on different aspects of Baby Jesus. And what was really fascinating about this piece was the fact that some of them were really pleasant and quiet and beautiful, but then other pieces were very violent and kind of difficult for someone who is not, I guess, accustomed to contemporary music. So my idea was, I was very interested in having Jesus. I sort of started, I had a very simple thought while listening to this music, that what would Jesus, like a real historical Jesus who lived in the times before the piano was, or even harpsichord was invented, how would he feel hearing this music written in his honor? And I decided to sort of stage this situation, and actually brought a friend of a friend, pianist from Poland, who This music is actually very difficult to perform, so it was not very easy for me to find someone who was willing to participate in this whole project. And I finally found someone in Poland, and he actually agreed to come to New York to do this. And I made a video of this, and I would like to maybe show some fragments of it. It's fine, okay.
Tout je suis idiot. Merde, merde, tellement.
I stop here because I never know how to interrupt the music in the right place. Yeah, I mean, this was again much longer, and we only did the 3 of the 20 preludes because the guy couldn't even. I mean, it was physically impossible to get through all of them. It would be like several hours of music, but I was interested in those transformation of Jesus into the lamb and other things, and also some kind of interruptions from TV Al Jazeera or other places. I mean, I was always fascinated by the story that in Poland during the communist, I guess, before the collapse of the curtain, there were a lot of artists and I guess scientists working on interrupting the official kind of TV sort of transmission like that normal TV broadcast. So I was kind of interested in that this kind of serenity of this living room scene with Jesus would be interrupted by some explosion. And so just maybe should finish here, but I want to say that on the 100th birthday of Olivier Messiaen, and I projected this video from my kitchen window in Williamsburg on the wall, and it was I mean, because this neighborhood at least used to be very predominantly Polish, so I wanted to sort of like give people the miracle, the Jesus on the wall. And it was actually I was actually surprised with wonderful responses I got from people, because it turns out that in my neighborhood there's a lot of people who are interested in Messiaen music, so it was quite nice, and it was such a guerrilla projection in a way, but it kind of worked out very well. And as a additional celebration, we had like a birthday cake with 100 candles and the Jesus lamp on the top to celebrate his birthday. So I guess I'll stop here. Thank you.